Well, a local casino reopens today, the Treasure Chest in Kenner. That's under Phase 1 restrictions, and it has been a couple days since casinos could reopen in our state. If you plan to go, expect to receive a health screening before getting tested and before getting inside, Guests will be screened on arrival, and they're encouraged to wear face coverings. Staff will also frequently clean the facility. The Treasure Chest reopening joins Boomtown Casino, which reopened on Monday. Harris in New Orleans is still closed right now. That's at the order of Mayor LaToya Cantrell. Casinos that reopen are allowed to have 50% of their game operating, but they're limited to 25% capacity. And that's where we find Duke Carter live this morning at the Treasure Chest Casino to tell us more about the Jefferson Back to Business plan. Duke?
Hey, good morning, Leslie Spoon. Yeah, the Jefferson Back to Business plan is kind of similar to, or should I say similar, it's a roadmap to make sure that businesses are successful since we're currently in Phase 1. It's to make sure that customers as well as employees and employers are safe. And so what they should do is pretty much a checklist, again, to make sure employees and employers are safe during this time frame. So on your screen is based on industry, specifically for restaurant, foods, and bars. They should follow a checklist, which would include menus being disposable, disinfected, after use, or displayed where people cannot touch them. Also, another thing on that checklist, remove help yourself food items where multiple people are in contact with the same product, and then also discontinue operations that require customers to use common utensils, dispensers such as salad bars, buffets, and beverage service stations. Now for retailers, it's a different checklist. They must offer, or can at least try to offer, touchless sale options where possible, and if those touchless sales options are not possible, clean the keypads, the screens, and pins between customers, or offer customers hand sanitizer to keep them safe. Now again, we spoke with the Jefferson Parish Economic Development Commission, the president there, and he talked about having a plan, but he also mentioned that there are some concerns since we're now currently in Phase 1. Take a listen.
They still have concerns that 25% occupancy on a restaurant is really difficult for them to break even. And then on top of that, one of the concerns has been with employees and the ability to get employees back into the workplace. They certainly have some concerns about their health, but also with the unemployment situation as it is, some folks are making more on unemployment than if they were to come back to work.
Now that the checklist that is pretty much industry based off of which business you have follows the similar guidelines that what medical leaders would encourage businesses to follow during this time. And so the goal is to make sure that businesses, while we're in Phase 1, can at least gradually and slowly move forward into Phase 2. For now, reporting, Duke Carter, Eyewitness News.